Let's think about this for a minute. During the Biden administration for 4 years, our nation was subjected to the worst invasion in the history, not only of this country, but of any modern Western nation. We saw millions and millions of illegal aliens cross that border, including entire criminal organizations. In other words, criminal syndicates that did not previously exist on our soil, like Tren de Aragua, were transplanted from foreign nations into American cities and towns to rape, maim, murder, and kill. That was done to us for 4 long years, right? The forced displacement of our own populations on our own soil. Democrats, far from learning a lesson over that, have become even more hardened and even more extreme in their opposition to our national sovereignty. So as you say, they are now not only waging war against TSA, but against the entire Department of Homeland Security, created after 9/11, with the singular purpose and the singular objective of trying to nullify immigration enforcement nationwide. They do not believe in borders, Mark. They do not believe in sovereignty. They do not believe that American lives are sacred.
Welcome back. That was top White House aide Stephen Miller telling Fox News' Mark Levin what Joe Biden did to America, and that Democrats don't believe in borders, the U.S. sovereignty, or the sacredness of life. This as the Supreme Court takes up the case this week of President Trump's order to end automatic birthright citizenship for children born in the U.S. to illegal aliens or parents on temporary visa. Let's welcome to the show Fox News legal analyst Gregg Jarrett. Greg, we need your brilliant mind on this. What's your take on this? Can the White House win it, or is it an uphill battle?
Well, the media, Liz, will tell you that Trump's going to lose. I'm not so sure. He does have a very credible argument in denying automatic citizenship to children of parents who were here illegally. You know, those who wrote the 14th Amendment never intended for it to apply to people who broke the law to come here and have no permission to even be here. And that's why they inserted the key phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, into the 14th Amendment. What does it mean? Well, it's a condition of allegiance to the United States. But the mere act of setting foot on U.S. soil, that doesn't necessarily constitute allegiance, especially the millions of illegal migrants who have remained in the shadows. They're not paying taxes. They don't file returns. They didn't obtain Social Security numbers. How can they be, quote, subject to the jurisdiction if their allegiance is unknown because their whereabouts are unknown? And if you go back and examine the debate, 1868, and I did look at it, there's no evidence that Congress meant to extend citizenship to children of people here illegally. No, their primary objective back then was to grant citizenship rights to formerly enslaved people. So I think on Wednesday you're going to hear some justices embrace Trump's argument. The question is, will there be enough?
Yeah, will there be enough? I mean, yeah, we hear you. The argument is they should be removed on the grounds they're not subject to full jurisdiction, that the parents owe primary allegiance to the foreign country they were from. But what about past Supreme Court decisions dealing with birthright citizenship? Have we seen cases like this in the past? We hear you cite other cases.
Yeah, one of the cases is U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark. That was back in 1898. You know, I think that has been widely misinterpreted because the parents in that case were in the United States lawfully and permanently. That is quite different from here illegally. And at the time, the Supreme Court recognized that the 14th Amendment did not grant citizenship to anybody and everybody. And there are a couple of other cases where the Supreme Court has in the past suggested that the citizenship clause is not all-encompassing. There are limits. So on Wednesday, we may hear some proposed limits from the U.S. Supreme Court, and then we'll await their decision.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Gregg Jarrett. That was super interesting, as usual. It's good to have you back on.